Hi, I'm Jeff Gonzalez, president of Trident Concepts, and today I'm here with Brownells Daily Defense to talk to you about safe dry fire protocol. So what is dry fire? Dry fire is a method of practicing without using any live ammunition. Why might you do some dry fire practice? Well, if it's difficult for you to get to the range or ammunition is hard to come by, there's some benefits to using dry fire techniques. It will allow you to do some of the simple gun operations such as loading, unloading, correcting malfunctions, performing reloads. So it allows you to practice those without actually having to fire any live ammunition. What that will then do is that can maximize the actual live fire training that you do. Instead of having to practice on some of those techniques, you can actually focus your efforts on doing live fire drills. So I think dry fire practice is important. Particularly as a new shooter, it's nice to help familiarize yourself in a safe environment with the various controls, everything from your grip, your sight alignment, all the fundamentals of marksmanship. So let's talk about how do we do this safely. Well, the very first thing that we need to do is to review the firearm safety rules. Rule number 1, all guns are always loaded. Number 2, maintain the muzzle in a safe direction. Number 3, maintain your trigger finger on the home position. And number 4, positive target ID and what's beyond. So once I have reviewed that, I need to identify a designated safe area. And what do we mean by that? Well, I need to take into consideration the safe direction. Can I point the firearm in this direction, and should a round go off, is it still going to be safe? There are things that we can do to help increase the safety margin there, but you're going to want to think about that safe area. Typically, you want to have it in a separate space so that you have like a buffer from distractions or the accidental, the accidental introduction of live ammunition. So usually in a space is the best thing that you can do. After you've designated that safe area, we need to go ahead and perform our safety check. So the safety check, to review, starts off by pointing the gun in the safe direction, keeping my trigger finger in the home position. I'm going to depress the muzzle about 10 degrees to visually inspect the chamber, up about 10 degrees, visually inspect the mag well. I'm going to look away, I'm going to perform that check one more time. So that double check is super important. The next thing, I want to make sure that I have no live ammunition. So I'm going to be using some of these dummy rounds to actually work any type of gun manipulations that I might need to do. Any live ammunition needs to be stored out of the safe area. So you don't want it inside. You don't want to be tempted at the last second to maybe load your magazine and all of a sudden you find yourself actually loading live ammunition to practice with. So once you've done the safety check, let's talk about defining what I'm going to practice. Well, what do I want to practice? My recommendation is that you try not to dry fire for longer than 10 to 15 minutes. And the reason behind that is there starts to become a point of diminishing returns. It's just not going to be that valuable if you're trying to dry fire practice for hours on end. However, what's more important is the consistency of your dry fire. So if you can practice 10 to 15 minutes, say once a week for over a month or two, you're going to gain a lot of value from the consistency of that 10 to 15 minutes. The other thing that we talk about is, what do I want to practice? So as I'm thinking about my dry fire, what am I going to be practicing today? Well, I'm going to be practicing the loading and the unloading, or I'm going to be practicing my malfunction clearances, or I'm going to be practicing the actual reloading of the firearm. So you want to define what it is that you're going to do. And I mean specifically, well, I'm going to perform 15 repetitions of a malfunction clearance. I'm going to perform 10 repetitions of an empty gun reload. Define it specifically so that you can really value each one of those repetitions to get the most out of them. The next thing we talk about is, well, what am I pointing at? What am I actually aiming at? Even though this is a safe direction, I need to probably have something to point at. There's a couple of thoughts here. One, I could maybe just take a sticky, put a brightly colored sticky note up on the wall there, or what might be better is to invest in, say, an old ammo can. Take that ammo can out to the backyard, fill it with dirt, or pick up some play sand, load the play sand into the ammo can. You might even paint that a different color, and you might put like maybe a shoot and see target on that. And the nice thing about that is that ammo can now becomes an actual, not just a safe direction, but it actually can become a bullet trap, meaning that if you were to shoot at that with live ammunition, chances are it's going to contain it because of the sand or the dirt that you've put inside. But whatever the target is, when you're done with the dry fire, you need to remove it or put it out of view. Because what you want is to avoid the temptation of seeing the target up and drawing or extending the gun to the target without having performed all of your safety checks and whatnot. So anytime you're done with your dry fire, remove the target so that it's out of temptation. The location that you typically will pick will need to be a location that you can consistently go to. But one of the things that's important is that you have a procedure for setting up and breaking down. So again, the setup procedure can be as simple as going into the space, closing the door behind you. Should you be interrupted for whatever reason, family members come in, there's a knock at the door, you've got something going on, just let that happen, go and deal with it. Then when you come back into your safe area, perform your safety check, again, to double check to make sure that you can start with an unloaded or with the practice inert rounds. After you're done, break it down. Remember, once you break down that target, you're done. Do not attempt to do any more dry fire after that, because at that point, you potentially could be loading live ammunition. So if you can take these techniques and employ them in a more consistent manner, you're gonna gain value from your dry fire practice. So think about that, think about how you would do it, think about the locations, whatever target types you might wanna use. So whatever questions you have, would love to hear from you. Post them down below. I'm Jeff Gonzalez. Until then, take care and stay safe.